Okay, we are live. Welcome to my impromptu Get Dressed with Me medievally. I am the creative Contessa, and I am here to show you how I get dressed in order to do one of my many medieval crafting live streams. Today, I shall be dressing myself in the stylish at-home Burgundian fashion. So I shall be depicting for you how a noblewoman in the court of Burgundy would have dressed in the second half of the 15th century if she were just going to hang out at home and do her own thing with her closest companions. So first we start with me already in the underlayers because I don't want to get banned by YouTube for violating community standards. So here is the undergarment. So this is what you might call a smock in the 15th century, a shirt for the men. Later on, people would refer to this as a chemise in modern living or history in modern historical costuming circles, but at the time in English it was called a smock. It's a chemise in French, which just means shirt, and that applies to men and women. A camicia in Italian, men and women also, not a gendered garment, or a camisa in Spanish, also not a gendered garment. So this is geometric construction. That means it is made from rectangles and triangles in its entirety. I have achieved the shaping on this in a conjectural form because we actually don't know what these garments, how these garments looked entirely, because we have no fully extant versions of this exact smock. But we have visuals, and often they are shaped. And so to achieve that shaping, I have used long triangular gores in the sides, which go under up to my armpit and past my armpit. And then to get the fullness of the skirts, there are 4 triangles in the skirt. And then there are 2 rectangles front and back that are bisected by those triangles. So it is all linen, and it has a square neckline, as you can see, and that's because this is the style of the second half of the 15th century. So next layer on top of this, actually, yes, I know this looks like it could be a full dress in and of itself. This isn't. This is underwear. This is the white layer that is against my skin, and this is the layer that will protect my overgarments from the fetid conditions of human skin, which you all have, whether you want to think of it that way or not. So I see, here we go. I can monitor the live stream there. Right, next layer is, and just so you know, if you've left a comment, I might not be able to see it yet because there is, as always, a slight lag in the comments. So thank you all for watching, and hopefully, oh, I forgot to set this to members only, or subscribers only can comment. Well, I'm going to probably rue that decision. Anyway, next layer in the Franco-Burgundy ensemble, and in fact, this is the same layer that ladies in England were wearing as well in this era, so we're talking the 1450s to the 1480s, is the kirtle. Kirtle. There's like, I don't know, at least 10 ways I've seen it spelled in 15th century English sources. It's called a cotte or a cotte simple in French. It's called a camora. One of the many Italian words for this layer would have been a camora, although of course the Italian style of this garment is very, very different from this one. One of the ways in which fashions really start to diverge regionally in the 15th century. So this is laced up in the front. It is made entirely of wool. Oh, thank you, Henry. Okay, so this laces up in the front, and it is made of wool. It's a medium weight wool, and it is perfectly comfortable to wear in the summer or in the winter. People mistakenly think that wool is uncomfortable to wear in the summer, but I have worn this exact gown in Thailand in the rainy season. So you'll notice it's short sleeved. That's because over top of this would normally come another layer, and that layer is long sleeved. And let me tell you, wearing 2 layers of sleeves is never fun at all, not in the least. So to lace it up, I have a hand woven, basically what's a technique called finger loop braiding, a hand woven lace. This is made of silk. Nearly all of my crafting parties over the past couple of days have shown how to make this. So if you're interested in that, oh, I see I already have a lace. Well, I have a different finger loop braided lace here. So if you'd like to learn how to make this, starting sharply on the hour at about, let me see, that's going to be 5 p.m. Seoul time or 4 a.m. New York time, or me see, 10 a.m. Germany, Frankfurt. You will learn how to make these laces. I will be showing Philip from Irish medieval history, how to make them. The dress looks like Marita's from from Brave. Yeah. So her dress was actually modeled on a 15th century kirtle, interestingly. So it's one of those ways in which sometimes they actually get medieval fashions correct, even in Disney movies. I was actually impressed when I saw the stills from that film. I should do a video on that, actually, reviewing the historicity of Disney costumes relative to their era, their supposed era. So this is what's called spiral lacing. And this basically is a technique whereby you whip stitch your garment shut. Men use this to lace up their garments as well, especially the undergarment. The overgarments tend to be either hooks and eyes for ladies in this period, buttons for men, or for men in Italy. Up in the northern parts of the world, though, overgarments for men are starting to be laced shut as well. Speaking of kitties, hey, no, bad kitty. No, get out of there. So I'm getting dressed because at 5 o'clock I'm going to be doing a medieval crafting session in which I'm going to be teaching Philip from Irish medieval history how to do a 15th century hand weaving technique called finger loop braiding. Modernly, in the 15th century, it was called lace making. So I want to be dressed up appropriately for that. And because I'm not leaving my home to do this, I'm going to be getting dressed, what I call semi-dressed. I'm putting on my kirtle, but I'm not going to put on the gown, but I am going to put on the appropriate headwear, so you'll be able to see that. So this is what the kirtle looks like. You can see I have pretty full range of motion. So it's not like modern garments where if you have sleeves, you are basically bound down like some kind of mummy, right? Don, no one asked you to comment. You can just keep on going. Didn't ask you to be here. You don't have to be here. Okay, so next, I don't have a lady in waiting here, unfortunately. I don't anyone here, unfortunately. So that means I've got to just kind of haphazardly put my hair on the back of my head in a messy bun. Of course, normally I have damsels to help me with this process. It's also why my headdress is pre-assembled. So I'm just tying the braids in my hair into basically a series of half knots. And they will just get hidden in the hat, basically. Takeda, sorry. The yellow, so yeah, Takeda, the yellow lining here, this is a facing around the edge. Facings are the way necklines seem to have been finished in this era, and it goes all the way down the front as well. The wool may or may not actually need reinforcement, but it's just the way all of the wool, the few extra wool garments we have, all have a facing like this from the 14th and the 15th century. So it just makes sense, especially because, especially when I get really active dancing, it's going to be put under a lot of strain. Yeah. Yes, I do look well preserved for a medieval person. I get it. Okay, next I'm going to put on my bling because, of course, jewelry is a big part of any 15th century ensemble. And ladies, even when they were at home in their casual wear, no doubt like to bling up. We have depictions of ladies in nothing, ladies, queens, princesses, etc., nothing but their kirtles, and they are still wearing something about their necks. So I'm going with my Armor and Castings Maria Portinari collar today. And then we have the headpiece. So normally I would actually, if I were going outside, if I were departing my chambers, I would actually put on an overgown. And that overgown is called a guna or a gauna in 15th century English. It's called a robe in French. And sort of the equivalent would be called a cotta in Italian. And that has a long train and it weighs about, I think I weighed it, it's like 15 pounds because it's fully lined and it's got a 10-foot train. I'm not going to be wearing that today for our finger loop braiding lesson with Philip from Irish medieval history. So I'm just going what I call casual. This is noblewoman casual. You can see I've got some lovely adornments. I have my kirtle on, and now we're going to put on the headdress. So this headdress is actually three parts. It is not one piece. I pre-assembled it. If I had a damsel here, I would have her actually put it together on my head, but I don't. So basically, there's a bonnet under here that is made of parchment, actually vellum, real goatskin vellum, not modern fake vellum, not vegetable parchment. It's lined in linen and covered in a black wool. And then over top of that comes my new frontleted veil. You can see the video on that I just put out, a short. I'll be putting the project log together for that hopefully this month sometimes. And then over top of that comes a silk velvet hood. And this is 100% silk velvet. It is not cotton velvet. And I will tell you, I both love and loathe silk velvet. It is the worst fabric to work with ever in the history of the world. And this very simply just slips over top of my head, happily. It is a very simple thing to put on. Basically like a hat. Just adjust, all I have to do is adjust to make sure it's center. Okay, and that is basically it. That is all the dress that I'm going to get today. So we've got the headdress on with the veil in the back, and I can actually, if I wanted, I could actually fold this back, although not really with the hood over top of it, with the silk hood. And of course, I have a pendant pinned here for extra bling. And if I really wanted, I have a coronet that I could have put over top of this because I'm a countess and countesses need coronets for ceremonial occasions. This is not a ceremonial occasion though. So this is the full ensemble for me to be in my quarters with my companions, engaged in a variety of activities. Actually, we could go dancing like this with my companions. We could work on hand sewing, embroidery, tablet weaving, finger loop braiding, which finger loop braiding is what we're going to be doing very shortly, starting on the hour with Philip from Irish Medieval History, and that will be in a separate stream. So if you want to see me teach an Irishman who's never done anything like this before, how to do finger loop braiding, then tune back in for that and watch the shenanigans ensue. Oh, thank you, Tim. Appreciate you. Oh, joy, and I just got 2 yards of black silk velvet for edging a coat. Oh, yeah, Takeda, silk velvet is the devil's tool. It makes you want it. It makes you want to have it, to wear it, to touch it. But then when you work with it, it's like it's a living organism and it moves a lot. Just to do a straight seam, just to make a rectangle. This is just a rectangle. That's all this hood is. This black silk hood. It's just a long rectangle of black silk lined in black silk velvet, lined in black silk velvet. And just to do a bloody straight line down the rectangle, I had to rip out my stitches multiple times because it's three-dimensional, very three-dimensional. And so it was a straight line of stitching on the top, was this completely wonky, drunken looking line of stitching on the bottom. So you want to keep your stitches very, very, very vertical and very, very parallel from top to bottom. It was miserable, miserable. Yeah, thankfully on the positive side, because of the pile, it absorbs some of those mistakes, but still, yeah. This is not Mormon. This is a 15th century, how 15th century princesses dressed. You can tell it's not Mormon because it has a really low neckline also. What in the Disney fairy tale is this outfit? This is a second half of the 15th century French ensemble. This is how ladies would dress. Ladies of noble stature would dress when they were at home in the privacy of their own quarters. Right, one of the ways in which they could dress. So yeah, you are not wrong. I guess it does sort of look like a fairy tale outfit, except this is how women actually dressed every day, all day. And I spend 2 weeks a year in at the end of July, early August in Western Pennsylvania, living a 15th century lifestyle, dressing like this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I can tell you it's perfectly doable. In fact, I spend a lot of my life these days dressed like this, doing all sorts of modern things even. So yeah. Well, thank you, I Love Me First. I think it's pretty gorgeous too, which is one of the reasons I chose this ensemble. It should actually be pinned into my hair, but I don't have, it's hard for me to pin this on myself without literally giving myself a craniectomy. So, oh, let's see. Amazing how people used to dress. Yeah, well, actually, it's funny. People dressed in layers and lots of layers up until the early 20th century. It really changed After World War I is when the big changes happened, is when we went from everyone, men and women, wearing multiple layers to, women especially wearing basically two layers, a slip and a dress over top of it. So yeah, there's a lot of ash in the air. Yeah. Yep. Princess dress. Yep. Princess dress from the 15th century, 1400. So 1450 to 1480-ish. And this is the under layer, not the over layer. So only the bottom layers, not, I'm missing a top layer. I'm missing one more layer, believe it or not. Yeah. This is so modest and beautiful. Why can't people follow it? That would be good. It is sort of modest, but it's also not. It actually has a pretty low neckline, interestingly. You're right, like all the legs are shown in full, but I want to point out a false myth that medieval people were scandalized by the revelation of ankles and or even knees of ladies. They were not. They absolutely were not. That is a Victorian invention, that obsession with ankles and knees and feet. Up until and including the 18th century in Western Europe, women were showing their ankles and calves with no problem, and no one said boo about it. Right? That's a Victorian thing. So in the Middle Ages, that was not a part of the body that was objectified in any kind of odd way. Medieval people were actually pretty pretty free with themselves, in ways we don't think they were. Just all you have to do is read Boccaccio's Decameron, the tales contained therein, and you'll get a good feeling for it. It's with the white scarf, and the whole dress is embroidered in best choices, gold lace in the dresses, silk attire. I seem to have missed a comment that goes with that. Oh, thank you, Cottonmouth. And oh gosh, I am sorry. My Cyrillic is so rusty. I cannot read your name. I apologize. Okay, well, everyone, if there are any other questions, I'm going to give you one more chance to ask any other questions or make comments. Otherwise, I'm going to go offline for a bit, but I will be back online on this channel on all the platforms to do my medieval 15th century finger loop braiding lesson with Philip from Irish Medieval History, who's only ever done first millennium Irish living history, and he's never done any textile art related thing in his life. So this should be good fun. Also means you can follow along and learn the basics of finger loop braiding yourself. You look to be in good shape for your age, to be honest. Yeah, look, that's wait an egg, buddy. No one's buying it. Goodness gracious. Do you wear this in public? If so, what kind of reactions do you receive? Yes, I do often go out in public like this, and people love it. Really, really love it. Everywhere around the world. I've worn clothes like this in France and in Italy out in public. Here, I am currently in Korea, and people love it. In America, it's less so, but other parts of the world, yeah, people love to see me out and about dressed in this historic fashion. I don't act Victorian at all. Yeah, thank you, Takeda, for tuning in. Okay, everyone. Well, I will either see you shortly or I won't. If you've enjoyed, don't forget to like and subscribe. And all of you out there who've been leaving all those ridiculous comments, really get a life, guys. Seriously. Okay, everyone. Until then, stay creative.